Some people get flawless panels, others end up with bugs or quirks that make you want to throw the box out of the window. 2025 is wild, bruh. Gaming monitors are moving faster than your ping on Fiverr. 1 second you're chilling on 144Hz IPS, next thing you blink and boom, 4K OLED panels are running at 240Hz HDR so clean, feels like you're inside the game. Haha, but here's the catch. Every brand swears theirs is the king. Asus flexes with a 1200 beast. Dell sneaks in with cheaper options. MSI throws in value for money. It's a mess. And if you just pick based on hype, you might land on a screen that looks epic on paper, but feels like pure bullshit when you're actually gaming. That's why you're here. Because dropping hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on a monitor isn't pocket change. You deserve to know which ones are truly worth it. Yeah, you. Sitting in that chair with that crisp headset looking like you're about to cast the next esports final. Is that a new haircut that you got? I noticed hair first things first, so either way, it's new or you've been treating that thing better than your controller. Love it. Now back on track. Do you splash on a massive 32-inch OLED that makes every open world game feel like a movie? Or do you play it smart and grab a 1440p monster that gives you 90% of the performance for half of the price? Maybe you're after HDR without blowing a hole in your wallet. And of course, the temptation of ultra wide. Once you've had a 45-inch curve hugging your setup, going back feels impossible. So here's the truth. Your monitor is the window to every game you touch. You can stack your rig with the latest RTX card, RGB, that makes your room look like a rave, but if your display sucks, the whole setup sucks. That's why today we're breaking down the very best gaming monitors of 2025 so far. Mind you, this is our own personal choices, so come at us if you will, but it's preference. From high-end OLED beasts to budget kings, HDR sweet spots, and ultra-wides that'll make you question your desk space, one of these could be the upgrade that changes everything. The only question is, which one's yours? Kicking things off at number 5. We've got a monitor that proves you don't need to drop your whole paycheck to level up your setup. The MSI Mag 275QF, a 27-inch 1440p 180Hz IPS LCD that feels like the perfect setup for anyone still stuck in the 1080p trenches. Here's a reality, a lot of gamers are still rocking those 24-inch 1080p 144Hz panels. They're cheap, sure, but cheap is a trap. In 2025, games are bigger, sharper, and hungrier than ever. Playing them on 1080 feels like putting a Ferrari engine in a lawnmower. The jump to 1440p changes everything. Sharper details, cleaner lines, and a much bigger canvas at 27 inches. That's 2K, for those of you who kind of like are confused there. That's where the Mag's 275QF shines, priced around 180 to 200. This thing is all about value. The 180Hz refresh rate keeps motion smooth, and MSI's tuning is actually decent. No gusting nightmares here. Wide view and angles make it forgiving if you're not dead center, and the color accuracy? Surprisingly on point for the price. Fire up something like Cyberpunk or Apex and you'll instantly feel the difference. But, and this is an important but, MSI had to cut corners to make it this affordable. The stand, not so good. It's a little bit trashy. No height adjustment, no swivel, nothing. It's like the monitor equivalent of those cheap plastic chairs at a barbecue. You'll either need a stack of textbooks under it or invest in a monitor arm. And while the colors are fine for gaming, you're only getting sRGB coverage. Forget wide color gamuts or fancy HDR. Therefore, if you're expecting OLED level visuals or cinematic HDR explosions, you will be disappointed. But if you're hunting for a serious upgrade without selling your GPU to pay for it, The Mac 275QF is an absolute gem. The real enemy here is an MSI. It's settling for less. Those bargain bin 1080p panels at $120 will tempt you, but that's money wasted. 6 months from now, you'll be staring at your blurry pixels wishing you had just gone for 1440p from the start. And that's why this monitor earns a spot on our list. Okay? It's the cheapest way to leave survival mode and actually start living in 2K. It's not flashy, it's not perfect, but it respects your budget and still gives you a genuine next-gen experience. And the MSI Mac 275QF, that's your entry ticket. But number 4? That's where things get spicy, because now we start mixing value with premium features. And once you see it, you realize budget gaming is only the warm-up. Sliding into number 4, we're stepping out of budget land and into the mid-range sweet spot with the Gigabyte M27 Up, a 27-inch 4K 160Hz IPS LCD that is about to become the new standard for anyone wanting to both work and play on one screen. Here's the setup. 4K monitors used to be locked behind high-end budgets. You look at the price tag, see $700 or more, and just laugh yourself back to 1440p. But in 2025, Gigabyte said, hold my RGB. The M27 Up is coming in at around $300 to $350, and it doesn't feel like a budget compromise. But wait, how? Normally, when a monitor undercuts the competition by $100 or more, you expect corners cut everywhere. Cheap panel, dodgy build, washed out colors. Not here. The M27 Up delivers quick response times, a well-calibrated IPS panel, and the kind of resolution that makes everything look ridiculously sharp. Whether you're gaming or just editing that epic clutch montage, this thing holds up. And then there's the curveball. Dual mode support. At native, you're running crisp 4K at 160Hz, which is already fire for AAA titles. But flip the switch and it drops into 1080p at 320Hz. That means buttery smooth motion clarity for competitive shooters without needing a second esports only monitor hogging your desk space. One screen, two personalities. But, and here's where the conflict comes in, it's not all sunshine. Stock levels are sketchy. Gigabyte teased this monitor like the next big thing. But depending on where you live, it hasn't even launched yet. That means you either wait patiently or you risk grabbing something else and miss out on what could be the mid-range king. Tough choice. Real Sophie's choice here. Therefore, for the impatient gamer, the fallback option is something like LG's 27GR93U, which sometimes drops to 300. Solid performance, but it lacks that dual mode magic. And honestly, once you know dual mode exists, it's kind of hard to settle for anything less. Here's the thing. The antagonist in the story isn't Gigabyte. It's time. Do you wait for stock and snag the M27 Up, or do you grab something else and risk buyer's remorse later? That decision alone makes this pick spicy. What seals it, though, is this. 4K clarity at a mid-range price with esports level speed baked in. No gimmicks, no overhype, just raw value that puts pressure on every other brand in the game. Number 5 was about survival. This number 4? It's about leveling up and flexing power without emptying your bank account. But the next one on this list, well, that's where performance starts breaking rules. Number 3 is where things get juicy, bruh. Because this is the point where monitors stop being just fine and start flexing features that make your jaw drop. Enter the AOC Q27G40XMN. Lovely name. A 27-inch 1440p VA panel with 180Hz refresh and, wait for it, a 1152 zone full array local dimming backlight. translation? Actual HDR, not that fake HDR ready sticker nonsense we've been fed for years. We're talking true contrast, deep blacks, blinding highlights, and enough brightness to make you squint when your flashbang goes off in Counter-Strike 2. So here's the setup. For years, gamers wanted HDR but couldn't afford OLED. The compromise was always overpriced LCDs with kinda, sorta HDR, right? But AOC flipped the script with this monitor. For around $300, you're getting peak brightness over 1,000 nits, rich shadows, and the kind of depth that makes single-player games feel cinematic. Fire up Cyberpunk at night, neon glowing across wet streets, and suddenly your old monitor feels like black and white TV. And this is the catch here, HDR isn't perfect, okay? VA panels, even with fancy dimming, still carry some baggage. Response times can't quite match IPS or OLED, and there's always a tiny bit of risk with blooming or flicker. And because it's AOC, you're also gambling on unit variance. Some people get flawless panels, others end up with bugs or quirks that make you want to throw the box out of the window. Therefore, if you're the kind of gamer who only lives in sweaty lobbies, HDR might not even matter. You'd be better off chasing high refresh IPS or OLED. But if you love story-driven games, immersive worlds, and visuals that make you stop and take screenshots, this thing's a golden ticket. You know the type I'm talking about. Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Ghost of Tsushima. The real antagonist here is expectation. Once you've gamed on proper HDR, it's impossible to unsee it. Everything else looks flat. Even a good 1440p SDR monitor suddenly feels like it's robbing you of half of the atmosphere. That's why this AOC makes the list. It's the cheapest way to unlock that cinematic magic without dropping north of $800 on OLED. Here's a line to take with you. HDR isn't a feature. It's a flex. And with that, the Q27 G40XMN, Frank for short, you're flexing for a fraction of the cost. Now, quick breather. If you're vibing with this breakdown so far, hit that like button. Let's be honest. If your monitor can't even handle 180 hertz, the least you can do is click once at 860. And tell me in the comments, would you rather spend your cash on flashy HDR or raw refresh rate power? Because number 2 on this list, oh my boy, that's where refresh rates go insane and everything you thought you knew about speed gets broken. All right, guys, we're in the top 2 now, the zone where good enough gets left behind. And sitting here, flexing like it owned the place, it's the Dell Alienware 8W2725DF, a 27-inch 1440p QD OLED running at a blistering 360 Hz. Let's set the stage. For years, the dream was simple. OLED clarity plus esports level speed. The problem? That combo usually meant selling your left kidney. I'm not kidding. But in 2025, Dell's like, nah, we'll do it for $620. Suddenly, the dream is real. And it doesn't even bankrupt you. Not that bad. So what makes this thing special? First, it's QD OLED. That means inky blacks, vibrant colors, and HDR that slaps harder than your electricity bill after a LAN weekend. Every frame looks alive, explosions glow, shadows have depth, and your games don't just look sharper, they feel richer. Pair that with 360 Hz refresh and you're seeing motion clarity that's almost unfair. Apex, Valorant, Counter-Strike, your enemies look like they're moving in slow motion while you glide around the Neo like Matrix. But, and this is where the spice comes in, 360 Hz sound like overkill, right? Most gamers never push that many frames. Therefore, the argument is, why not stick to 240 Hz OLED and save a bit? And yeah, If you're just grinding story games, fair point. But if you're competitive, if every millisecond counts, then 360 hertz isn't luxury. It's an advantage. It's an edge. An edge that wins rounds. The real antagonist here is doubt. People doubt if they'll even notice a difference. They think 240 is already smooth enough. But here's the kicker. Once you play 360 hertz OLED, you can't unsee it. The jump is like going from console 30 FPS to PC 144 FPS back in the day. It's not subtle, it's a revelation. Now, let's not pretend here it's flawless, right? Text clarity on OLED still lags behind IPS, and there's always the burn-in risk if you're running Excel all day instead of games. But for a monitor that costs less than many 240 hertz models, those trade-offs are easy to swallow. This isn't a monitor. It's an unfair advantage with RGB attached. And that's why the Alienware AW2725DF grabs the number 2 spot. It delivers premium OLED magic, competitive refresh rates, and a price that, honestly, it embarrasses its rivals. But number 1, that is where the crown sits. The monitor that redefines what best means in 2025. And trust me, you're going to want to see this beast. Here it is. The number 1 spot. The throne. And sitting on it, glowing like a spaceship on your desk is the Asus ROG Swift PG32 UCDM, a 32-inch 4K 240Hz QD OLED monster that doesn't just play games, it transforms them. Let's be real, we've seen solid value, we've seen HDR tricks, we've seen esports speed, but this monitor, this is where everything comes together in one brutal, beautiful package. 4K resolution means every detail pops. Blades of grass, strands of hair, the sparkle in a dragon's eye. And because it's OLED, you get infinite contrast. The blacks aren't dark or gray, they're black, whole black. Explosions against those shadows, unreal. Now add 240 Hz on top. That's right, 4K visuals without sacrificing speed. Normally, you'd have to choose sharp or fast. The screen says, why not both? Single player Epic looks like movies, but hop into Valorant or Apex and you're still getting buttery smooth motion that keeps you locked in. But here's the spice. It costs. Starting at around $1,200, PG32 UCDM is not playing in budget territory, and that's a conflict. Do you really need to spend that much when cheaper OLEDs exist? Therefore, it becomes a question of how much you value everything at once. Because no other monitor right now delivers the same combo of size, resolution, refresh, and HDR accuracy all wrapped in one beast. And the features? Stacked. Dolby Vision support, black frame insertion for even cleaner motion, and HDR tuning that doesn't wash out colors. This is the monitor you buy if you want the absolute top experience. No compromises, not good enough, just pure flex. Of course, OLED always comes with its shadow, burn-in risk. And Asus doesn't exactly sell this thing for cheap, but think about it. How often does tech line up perfectly? Usually you sacrifice something, right? Either it's price or speed or image quality. Here, it's all maxed out. The only thing holding you back is your wallet. Monitors were cars. This isn't a Ferrari. It's a spaceship. And the rest of us are still stuck in traffic. That's why the ROG Swift PG32 UCD-M takes the crown. It's the definition of peak gaming in 2025. And if you're sitting there on your $100 budget screen wondering if it's worth saving for, bro, once you've seen games on this thing, there's no going back. But that's the beauty of this list. Whether you're starting small or aiming for the stars here with your setup, 2025 has a perfect screen that is just for you. And there you have it. The best gaming monitors of 2025 so far. I'm still getting chills. I still need to, from all this sweat. From the entry-level MSI that proves 1440p doesn't need to cost a fortune, all the way up to the Asus ROG Swift spaceship at number 1, they're the battlefield. They decide whether your graphic card flexes or flops, whether your games feel alive or flat. That's why this list matters. Because the right screen isn't just an upgrade, it's a weapon. Now, I'm gonna give you another twist here. Choosing a monitor isn't just about specs. It's about who you are as a gamer. Are you the budget survivor making the most out of every rand and still keeping your KD intact? Are you the HDR adventurer chasing immersion and screenshots that look like wallpapers, even using some of those? Or are you the competitive demon, shaving milliseconds off every flick until your enemies are crying in chat? That's a real question. Because the best monitor changes depending on your story. Because that's what it is. It's your story. And here's where it gets tricky. Tech doesn't slow down. Where you're still deciding between 1440p and 4K 500Hz OLEDs are already knocking on the door. Ultra wides are getting curvier, brighter, and sharper. And the rumors? We're hearing whispers of monitors that don't just display games. They adapt to them in real time. Imagine for a second a screen that knows if you're exploring or in combat and shifts in its entire mode automatically. That's the kind of madness brewing for late 2025. So, the loop closes here, and it's closing fast. You know the best monitors right now, but the doors it opens, that's up to you. Do you stick with a safe choice today or risk waiting for the next wave that might blow everything out of the water? Whoa. Before you go, let's settle this in the comments. Be honest. Be honest here. What matters more to you? Insane refresh rates for that competitive edge or jaw-dropping visuals that make every game feel like a movie? Yours truly, on a personal note, I'd love to see every game feeling like a movie. Drop your answer down below. I want to see where the real gamers stand. And if you've been vibing with this breakdown, hit that like button, dude. Not because I told you to, but because your current monitor is running at 60 Hz and clicking once is the easiest upgrade you'll do today. Did you know that if you click on that like little thumbs up button, you level up currently, right now? That's what we give you. Subscribe, bro. We got more gear breakdowns, more gaming drama, and more reasons for you to rethink your setup. Keep your setup sharp, your aim sharper, and I'll see you again when we level up next time.